All right, everybody, episode 17 for the dream. 17 for the dream. Finally, I am back in the place where I am getting the conversation regenerated and moving forward with H2O. Last week was considered episode 16, and I didn't get a chance to really go to put my video together and whatnot, but I went live on IG. And so I just recapped what's been going on since this summer and recap just why podcast, why H2O, and just shared my thoughts and sent out an intention to motivate and encourage you to set your intentions, whatever it is, and believe it to manifest at its respective and proper time. So that's something I want to set out for everybody. And for today, I told you all that I was going to be bringing on a guest, very, very special guest. This is a young man that's had an opportunity to, me personally, see grow, but work with me. And I work with him on the book that I've been promoting these last couple of months, called The Island of Nesusi, an excerpt taken out of the book I released last year, The Almost Doesn't Count or Does It book. And so I'm so thrilled to be able to share about that book and be able to bring DeSean, aka Jeremiah, on the platform to be able to talk about his experiences working with that book. And the book will be available by the end of this month. If not the end of this month, next month, hang on, bear with me. I hope to have pre-orders available sometime soon. But before we even get into all those nuances, I love to start the broadcast off with just being intentional and taking some focused breathing, some focused breaths. And so if you all could join me in doing so, I would be much obliged. I would appreciate it. And I think that your body and your mind and your spirit will appreciate it as well. So without further ado, let's go ahead and bring it in. Let's do that 2 more times. That just connects us. That just connects us and brings us a little bit more present. Bring it in. Last time. Okay, so let me just go ahead and bring our brother on. DeSean, aka Jeremiah May, would you go ahead and bring yourself on to the camera so that the people can see you?
All righty, glad to be here.
Excellent.
How's everybody doing?
Excellent, excellent. Hopefully they will be responding at some point whenever we release this. We're doing this actually as a pre-recording a week before it's actually released. So that being said, today is September 10th, 2022. The time currently is 4:45 p.m. Central Standard Time. And we are 1 day shy away from the 21st annual 9/11 event. And so we know that that day brings many, many, many mixed feelings. By the time that this shows, of course, we'll be a week out. But we want to spend some time to kind of commemorate that day and commemorate or memorialize rather the 9/11 situation. Jeremiah, well, what do you prefer us to call you, Jeremiah or DeSean? What would you like to be referred to as during this podcast?
DeSean work. That's my pen name.
Okay, DeSean. Okay, DeSean, where were you during 9/11? 2021. Excuse me, 2001.
Yeah, I was I was 3 months. Yeah, I actually didn't find out about 9/11 until I was 9 years old. So yeah.
Wow. You were 3 months. I was a senior in high school.
Wow. How was it like? I know times were different for real. I know it's like being born in the 90s, like in mid 90s, early 90s or late 80s, and then seeing how time progressed on to into the 2000s. I know it's been a crazy time. So how was it like for you experiencing that and being aware of it?
You know, the crazy part, I remember it like yesterday. I remember the day before, which was crazy, I guess. So September 10th of 20, I keep saying 2021, 2001, coming out of football practice, I remember distinctly, I was right outside of our cafeteria on the back end at Sam Houston High School, Arlington, Texas. Woo, woo, Texans. Um,
Mhm.
and for whatever reason, I remember stopping and I just kind of smelled into the air and I just kind of tasted the air and I said, I don't know why, but it just seems like death is in the air. And everybody kind of looked at me kind of strange and said, why would you even say
I'm
something
like,
like
you
that?
strange right now. See,
Yeah,
it's crazy.
it was very surreal. You know, people just kind of stopped and just, it was just out of the blue. It was just something so crazy. So I'll remember that day vividly because it was only a day later. I was walking to, I was right there off of no, it wasn't Pioneer, Arkansas. There's a
Mhm.
Kroger that's located over there. And I was walking that shopping center. I was looking for employment. That was my senior year in high school. So um, as I was walking across, you know, picking up job applications, you know, as a senior, you had few classes. So I spent that time trying to find me a job. And I remember walking into Kroger and I just saw a few crowds of people just stopping in front of the door. They had televisions when you walked into Kroger, one on the right side, on the left side. And I just remember seeing people just stand around and they're just looking at the TV. And I'm thinking, what is going on? Why are these people, you know, looking at this cheesy movie that they have going on? By the time that I looked up at the screen on the right, the second airplane hits the building. And I first looked at it, the building was flamed up and I saw a bunch of smoke. It just looked like a cheesy movie. So I'm thinking, what movie is this? So again, when I look up and I see the second airplane hit the building, I see people screaming and kind of freaking out. And they just, I remember someone saying the World Trade Center just got hit a second time by the airplane or something like that. And I said, what? And so I remember immediately walking out of Kroger and heading back to school. And once I got back to school, I knew that something serious was going on because they started to enter into a lockdown and no one was able to leave the classrooms. And my principal at the time, she actually was from New York. And she was talking over the broadcast system. And I went into one of the rooms and I could just hear people crying. And we had a lot of people who had family on the East Coast or family who was in the military. And then, of course, us being in Texas and Bush being in the office during that time was a very surreal moment because certain cities were being vacated because, of course, the Pentagon was attacked. And then they were thinking that Texas was going to be next on the um, attack list or what have you.
I'm on the podcast. I'm so sorry.
That's okay. But yeah, so it was just one of those situations where everything got shut down and people's parents would come, students' parents would come in to pick them up from school. Everyone was making phone calls. And that was probably one of the first times where I saw fear overtake people to the degree that Muslims were being attacked at school.
And
And
Middle
I thought,
Easterns.
Yeah, young ladies who had the turn the turn.
Hijab,
What is it?
hijab.
Yes,
Girls wear hijab, men wear the turbans.
yeah. Thank you. So I saw anyone who had this regalia on were being attacked, and it was just crazy. Just like, what are y'all doing? Why would you even attack them? And so, of course, the word was getting around that it was Muslims that attacked the Twin Towers, and we were going to be attacked. And of course, there was just so much that was happening. So anyway, I remember that day quite vividly. I remember just being in church, and the church was completely packed out, and it created a lot of conversations because
Church
there.
attendance went up. You know that, right?
I'm sorry.
Church attendance went up. I think when that happened, church attendance skyrocketed. Like
Oh
more people
yeah,
started going to church after.
I can say for the few churches that I was going to, that the attendance, I mean, it was like packed out. Like it was completely packed out. Of course, the Psalms 91, I believe scripture was often rehearsed about the arrows that fly by day and the pestilence at night. Of course, anthrax was the bio warfare that was happening at that time, where people were scared to open up their mail because the whole anthrax situation was going on. So um, very, very different, but very similar times to what we're experiencing today with COVID-19. And then, of course, all the other wars and things that are happening right now. So it was different, but it wasn't that different. The big difference was that there wasn't as much social media to proliferate the information and to have as much access, although every news feed was essentially blocked up with coverage on the 9/11 and locating family members, et cetera, et cetera. So that's what I remember most about 9/11.
Yeah.
Yeah. So
Yeah,
yeah,
man,
man, that's
definitely.
a 3-month-year-old. I'm sure that there's not much that you remember about that day besides milk.
Yeah, oh yeah, it was crazy. I think it's like just piggybacking back on what you said, with how with 9/11 and how they've used that to justify hatred. It's very it's very messed up and it's vindictive in the way of that. I don't know. I just don't think I hate how it was carried out in certain ways in 9/11, how it was carried out. I guess it rose. I know you have a lot of conspiracies about it. You have a lot of people trying to say, oh, it was Osama bin Laden. It was I guess, and now he says he Osama bin Laden who's Muslim, so all Muslims, are responsible for this. My thing is, I don't know. It's weird. I don't want to like go too far off the deep end, but it's like I think all communities have done bad things with people. But I feel like when it's somebody from minority, or my more minority group that does something as an individual, people outside that community judge that whole community for it.
Sure.
And there's different examples of that. And I hate to say it, it's like when I see it's like one black person can do something, and then everyone outside from that community will say that's how black people are. And you will say somebody who's not from minority community, you have a white person shoot up school, and then they wouldn't judge the whole race for doing it. So they'll still see them as an individual, but like they'll see somebody, a minority who is an individual, they'll have to judge their entire community for it. And they know that as big as minority groups are, it's not good to paint with such a broad paintbrush. So yeah, I think it's very because I've had friends try to tell me, it isn't Americans' fault for being fearful and acting in this certain way towards Muslims and Christians. And even then, it's like not to not to dismiss or desensitize the situation of it. How many Muslims or Middle Eastern do you know that are going around doing that? That's not the currency. If anything, it's the other way around. They don't have that. They're not known for doing it, or at least they shouldn't be. So
No, I agree that unfortunately, the way that our brains are wired, we speak about the brain in terms of reptilian, mammalian, neo-mammalian, or the frontal cortex. When we look at the way that the human brain has hardwired in a lot of cases, and I think we are shifting out of this, but fear for the basis of survival. I'm sorry.
I'm on a podcast. That's why I'm still at work. It's in a break.
Okay, no problem. But fear, a lot of times, is the motivating factor, and that fear oftentimes was used as a means to help sustain us or help navigate us for survival. And so, unfortunately, if we don't make the intention to work through that hard wiring, so to speak, then we do have a tendency to make that broad stroke that all of them are the ones that are going to attack me. No different. Poor sharks take the blame for every killing in the water. We see one shark.
Dolphins are.
We see a snake and it's like, snakes are evil, kill that snake. Or we get one bite from a spider.
I'll give you a better one. It's like with stingrays. They don't like stingrays no more because what Steve Irwin. So that's like you actually had people go and kill stingrays because of what one stingray did to Steve Irwin. And then Steve Irwin's family had to go out and speak out against it. People are that ignorant. I'm sorry, I may be blunt, but hey, it is what it is. They don't know how to differentiate between the two.
Yeah, there's definitely a lot to unpack in that, when we talk about the collective consciousness and what kind of information starts circulating in a collective group, it can be very challenging to isolate the ignorance from intelligence. And we're all vulnerable to it if we're not careful. We all can be very much so vulnerable and susceptible to making very poor decisions because of the crowd mentality, or the mob mentality rather. So there's definitely a lot of conversation that can be had around that. But let me do this so I don't take us too far off of our conversation for today, but great insights. Appreciate you sharing that, man. I do want to be a bit, I want to read this description for today's podcast verbatim, and I hope that you all will have a chance to sit through the conversation. And who knows, some of you who are looking to actually write a book and looking for an illustrator, you may have a resource before you today. So here's the description. This podcast will focus on promoting the book of The Island of Nesusi with an emphasis on the illustrator, DeSean. DeSean will be discussing his journey working on the illustrations and what his process is like creating illustrations. In addition to discussing his process with the Island of Nesusi, he will also be discussing other bodies of work he has released that he has released and he's about to release to the public. And so, again, I want you all to help me welcome and celebrate our illustrator, our guest, our author, Mr. DeSean.
How's everybody doing? Amen. Get to it.
All right. So who is DeSean and how did you come to this name?
Well, I came to the name DeSean. I think when I was born, my mother's name was Liana, right? And she wanted to give me the name or the middle name DeSean, right? And I guess it's sort of like half of it is like a tribute to her, because she passed away when I was little, and she was the first person to tell me, that I could draw, that I could write. She was my first supporter, and I kind of owe part of that to her. And I guess if you know anything personally about me, is that I don't have any of my biological parents' last name. That story is one of the day, but I don't have any of my biological parents' last name, and I wanted to have something like that tapped into my ancestors, and that was her. So I decided to have her, name including to mine. And that's pretty much how I got the name of Sean, and I plan to legally change it. So.
That's very unique. I didn't know that. I appreciate you sharing it. That's very powerful and beautiful. Okay, when your name is mentioned in the public, what are the first three things you want the public to know you as and why? So again, I'll read that again. When your name is mentioned in the public, what are the first three things you want the public to know you as and why?
As an artist, an author, and an illustrator, that's really what I am. I want to make art that means something that people can relate to. I want to make art that'll stand to the test of time. You know? Art or with any form of art medium, the more you put yourself into it, the more of the impact it has on the things around it, on the people around it. And so you make sure you want to put your true self into your art.
Nice. DeSean, and I don't know if it's your microphone or what, but maybe some of your body movement may be taken away from the sound quality. So either move that microphone around, or you can maybe minimize some of your body movement so we can hear that beautiful voice of yours.
Oh yeah, I'll stay still. Yeah.
Okay. I know it's hard because I talk with my hands so often, man. Okay. And why do you want to be known for the author, the illustrator, and what was the third one?
Just an artist. You know what I'm saying? I think really.
Why is that?
I think to me, it's important to know where I stand on like as how I use my medium to touch the world, how I share my views with the world of society, and somewhat not only my expression but as my commentary on current events, social ideas, past ideas. It's something that just coming straight forward. Being who I am, an artist, and someone who wants to make content for the people, and yeah, that's really just being more, I say, being more open about who I am as a person, as a content creator, this kind of thing.
Nice. Appreciate you indulging me because you did answer the question earlier, but I slightly forgot. But then I also want to just hear a little bit more about your why. So tell us a bit about your upbringing and where you are born. Where are you from?
Well, I was born in Jacksonville, Florida, in June 2001. I think my upbringing is pretty weird. I guess I spent half my childhood with my biological mom, and my other half with I wouldn't say he's not my biological dad, but he's my dad. So I spent my other half with my dad. And I think when I was with my mom, we moved around a lot every year. Yeah, every school year, I was always the new kid growing up. And but when I got to high school, that kind of changed. So it was good to find that stability. But I think when I was younger, I guess like I'm kind of thankful to have the experiences that I did because now I get to say I live in different states. I know many people, and I'm still friends with a lot of people that I went to elementary school in different states. So I mean, I think I'm thankful to live the life that I've lived. I'm thankful for people that's in it, and yeah, I think I want to say I've had interesting experiences, to say the least. And I think I moved to Texas when my mother passed away in 2012. So I've been in Texas for about 10 years now. And I want to say, I want to say that I grew up in Texas. I've never been in any place longer than, 5, 6 years.
Okay. And it's true that your parents were military. This is why a lot of the movement happened. Is that right?
No, I think both my biological parents were military. Yes.
Okay, nice. Did that have an influence on your creative side?
Have they what?
Did that movement have an impact or influence on your creative side, your artistic side?
I wouldn't say so in a grandiose sense, but I will say I'll probably like do some form of art that includes the military that's depicted in my art form. Probably one of my stories I will include that. 'Cause I do like historical war movies. I like seeing the artillery. I think it's cool seeing it like in film. I don't like seeing it in person. I don't know. I kind of have a fear of like guns and weapons and stuff. But yeah.
Okay. All right. So you're 12. You are starting to come to yourself. You had a lot of significant changes that happened during that time period. Tell us about your journey as an artist. I don't know which one came first. Well, obviously you started drawing, and that should have led into illustration. But as far as like your writing, which one of those came first? Just kind of give us some history about your journey coming into being an artist, illustrator, author. Walk us down that journey.
I think my first love, I think it really got me music drawing. I think it was, I want to say it was between first and second grade is when I really started drawing. I'll see other kids do it in class. And, I always loved cartoons in my life. So I think I wanted to see how I can, build upon that. So I remember, I think I was in second grade. I would be drawing. I would get like notes saying I drew too much on my paper, on my work homework. So I showed my mom. She was like, I didn't. You're doing really good, Jeremiah. I never got to draw. Well, I never drew as good as you did, Jerry. So I think I definitely wanted to build on that. And I think it was like fourth grade. I started making my own little comics, parodies and whatnot. And then fifth grade, I started to get serious because I used to, before I started writing just funny stories or funny little comic strips of my favorite cartoon characters. Of like Dora, Boot, SpongeBob, Spider-Man. And then it wasn't until fifth grade where I started making my own original characters. And then I went on to seventh grade that I have titles of the artwork I'm working on, but it's not copyrighted, so I can't mention it publicly. But the one that I can mention publicly is the one that I started in ninth grade, which was Theater Squad.
Beautiful.
That's where we are now.
Beautiful. So your passion to write came out of your passion to draw. Would that be accurate, or was it vice versa?
I think my passion to draw came first. My passion to write came, I want to say it came in like sixth grade. I think, sixth grade, I was dealing with a lot. I was dealing, my mother passed. My biological dad didn't know, he was kind of inconsistent in my life. Then my dad died, that I call my dad. I guess like, I didn't feel like I could really, he could really understand me whenever I vent to him, he wouldn't understand. So I needed somebody to vent to. So I started writing down, I used to have like a little diary from sixth to eighth grade. I used to just writing out all the time. I also used to write poetry. So I used to write poetry to express my feelings, my deepest feelings. I used to write poems for girls that I liked, you know what I'm saying? And yeah, I think after that, I just mixed with creative writing because I love seeing movies that have an interesting plot to it that I can really look back on and kind of be inspired out of. Because whenever I would draw comics, I would watch animated movies to give me the hype for it.
Nice. Nice. Okay, let's take it a little bit further.
Amen.
Okay, so who are your top two biggest influencers as it relates to writing and illustrating?
One for sure, I will say it's Aaron McGregor who did the Boondocks. I think he's definitely one. Him and let me see another one. yeah. I think that's really. I know that show isn't really appropriate for all ages, but look, I think it has a great social commentary. It's great written. It's very funny. I think it's very well done. Has a lot of hidden messages in it that I love. But
sure.
That's one comic that I really like.
And who is the producer of Boondocks?
Yeah, he's an author and illustrator of the Boondocks. Aaron McGregor.
Aaron McGregor.
Aaron Magruder. I'm sorry.
Magruder. Okay. So that's one. Who else?
That's a good point. Let me see. I like. I'm trying to think of another one. I did like Jeff. I like Jeff Kinney. I would say him. I think. I grew up on Diary of a Wimpy Kid. I used to be a big fan in middle school.
And I think my reception kind of came in and out. Who was that again?
He's the author of Diary of a Wimpy Kid.
Okay.
All the way.
And what was
And
his name
just
again?
seeing Jeff Kinney.
Jeffrey. Okay. All right. Okay, and you chose his genre of books because
I feel like I chose the genre of books of young adults. I feel like they show more of a desire to want to get to know themselves and see themselves as other people. You know what I'm saying? I feel like when you're an adult, you think you already know who you are when you don't, or at least you presumably think people have things figured out. But I feel like when you're like, when you're like a young adult, middle school age, it's like you're trying to figure out who you are. When you're a little kid, that's not even your concern. You're just not really thinking about anything big yet. But when you're making that awkward phase from being a child to an adult, it's a lot of uncertainty. You want to look for reassurance and look for guidance in other places. And that's what I want to do. I want to provide guidance, and I want my audience to see themselves in my work.
nice. Okay, so we're going to take a change of topic, somewhat in the same vein. We're just gonna segue into cartoons. You mentioned cartoons earlier. I love cartoons.
Oh yeah.
Back in my day, my cartoons were Mighty Max with the hat and the M, and it would open up portals. Love that cartoon.
Oh man.
Transformers. Uh, geez, there were so many.
I love Transformers.
uh, so many, man. I can't even think of some of the titles of the cartoons. Oh, Mega Man. I mean, just too many. Dragon Ball Z. Anyway, those are mine. What would be some of your favorite Saturday morning cartoons or just cartoons in general? I think I heard you mention SpongeBob earlier. I felt like you
Oh yeah.
wanted to say Adventure Time, but you just didn't say it. But you just tell me what some of your favorite cartoons were.
I think that I did like Adventure Time. I didn't grow up on it. I think it came out in 2010. I started watching TV in middle school. So I want to say
Okay.
um,
Okay.
I like the Rugrats. I like the Hey Arnold. I like the
Good one.
Ed and Nettie, Conan Kids Next Door. I love the show. Let's see what else we got. Foster's Home for Imaginary Friends. I loved Invader Zim. Like I have a whole list of shows that I love
Um,
watching.
why did you like Hey Arnold? That was definitely one of, even though that was many years after my childhood, it was something about Hey Arnold for myself that I really enjoyed. Why did you like Hey Arnold?
I love like the natural feel to it. It was very real and very like like it was cartoonish, but it was very day in the life, and it was like anticlimactic. You know what I'm saying? Sometimes like it doesn't have to be extravagant. Like it doesn't have to be anything too abnormal. Like oh, it's about a few kids just going out of space and doing adventures. It's not about a kid having superpowers. Like this is down to earth people just in the cartoons. You know what I'm saying? I think that's like the simplicity of it. I find it refreshing. You know what I'm saying? It doesn't have to try too hard to be original. It's just about day in life. And that's the kind of stuff that I try to go for, where it's not too out there, but it's like something you relate to, something you can see yourself in. I love, watching Harold, like seeing like I love the character development because you would see, just seeing how they would do with the bullies or like the antagonists, you would see them try to come to an understanding and they will join forces and either they'll be friends in the end or they'll just go separate ways. That's why I think real life should work. So anything that talks about I think good cartoons, a lot of times they don't have like a target audience. Like anybody can say something. And that's what you can have with Hey Arnold. So I love that very much.
You answered that so articulate and just so beautiful. I've never heard Hey Arnold described in that way as being anticlimactic. And as I'm reflecting on the cartoon as you speak, I'm like, you know what? It was. And there was something very, I'm going to make this connection. I don't know if you'll resonate with it, but it felt like there was this silver line between like the Batman and Hey Arnold. There was something very twin flamish that felt
Real
connected.
people.
Maybe it was the realism. Maybe it was that kind of realism.
Yeah, and that's what I started doing.
And incidentally, the characters of Hey Arnold had very dramatic features, very caricature type features. Football head, Hey Arnold, and then some of the other different shapes of heads and things like that. That definitely brings a contrast to that anticlimactic feel. So I like the way that you described that. Favorite character and why? Favorite cartoon character and why?
Cartoon. Let me see. I'm really thinking. I have a lot. I have a lot. Let me see. I'm trying to think right now. Who is my favorite cartoon character? I'm gonna say I also, so I gotta figure out. I like Stitch. And I like Huey Freeman. Those are my two favorites. Like I can't really put.
And for whatever reason, my reception is
Would you freeze?
bananas. Yeah, it's like freezing up. Say that for us one more time. Your favorite character?
I think Stitch from Lilo and Stitch. He's like the blue alien. I think my second one, well, the one that's tied is Huey Freeman. So yeah.
Okay, let's go with Lilo. Why is Lilo Stitch your favorite?
I mean, I think Stitch my favorite. I think I love his design, like his movie too. I think I was born 2001, so I feel like him. You know what? You know what? Okay, let me think about it. I hate to do this, but I think my favorite. I have to replace Stitch with SpongeBob because SpongeBob that's my boy forever. You know, I think one of the first shows I ever watched was SpongeBob. I mean, like the first comforters I had was SpongeBob. My first lunchbox, my first watch, it was all SpongeBob, man. It's like even though like me being I'm always gonna think the version I grew up with is better than the one I saw. I definitely know like seeing how he was like. I think in the early he had more dimensions to his character. He wasn't like he's known for being happy and known for being, but he had moments where he showed other sides and that felt real and felt natural. Like just because he's all happy, getting and playful doesn't mean he can't know what it's like to be disrespected. Doesn't mean that he doesn't know how to speak up for himself. And I think that's very admirable when characters aren't really when they're like not always on one static, you know, emotion or definitely my first favorite character. I think the tie, it's like I said, the tie between him and Huey Freeman. Huey Freeman, I think he has. I relate to his view on the world and view on society a lot more than any other character. I feel like I've never seen a character who been carried out in the way that he has, and seeing how he acts and how he's so strive to be like that. And like he always keeps composure. You never see him act the fool. You never see him, break character. And I love that. So I think he's one of the characters I look up to, for real. I think SpongeBob one of the characters to myself as a child, and he has a place in my heart.
Okay, touche for SpongeBob. I've been having to switch some things around, so I've missed out on part of what you were saying, but hopefully the audience doesn't miss out whenever we go back to play this. But that's a very interesting character, and I would really love to hear more about your SpongeBob background and your reasoning. But I am going to shift on
Of course.
our next questions, seeing that we're starting to approach our time. So you're working on the Island of Nesusi. Talk to us about that process for you. What was that like And what were some of your biggest takeaways?
Things be and letting God or the higher power, things will be okay no matter what happens. Even though like not every time something goes wrong is the end of the world, because it's not. So that's what I got from the process of working on the island of Nesusi. I think it's really about just being a go getter. That's what the character is. He's a go getter. He's will do whatever it takes. It's not like it works against his favor. Everybody has that same ambition. Or when we are faced with any obstacle in life, we need to be resilient like he is.
Okay. And I'm still working on little tech issues in the background. Last thing I heard you talk about was resilience. Why that word? Why did you use that word?
I was reading through it and I was meditating on what I never went his way, he still kept going. Even though he caught many unfortunate events, so he still kept going. Like he was going through hell, but he didn't want to stop. He wanted to get to the sun. And I think that's very admirable.
So when I sent you the book and you were able to read through the pages, talk to me about the kinds of images and illustrations that popped up. And I'm going to actually dovetail this question because what I wanted to ask you earlier when you talked about some of your influencers, Boondocks and the Diary of, I forget the title of the book, but when you created the images for these illustrations, did some of the artwork actually, was that inspired by some of these other individuals that you were inspired by, or were these primarily just very original creations that popped up in your mind when you thought to start putting pictures to the words?
I want to say it was definitely original. I think I would look at the way how my art was articulated throughout the pages and look how the Boondocks was in Spongebob. Aside from them both taking place underwater or on land, I think just the thematic and the outline of it, it's different in its own way. And I think about the Boondocks while I was working on my art piece. I make sure I do it like in a different style or try my best to. And that's what I wanted to do with the Island of Nesusi. I wanted to have something new that I hadn't done before. Give it its own original feel. I think when I would look up like stock photos on Google to see how a sunset would look or see how, certain places in the world where I would try to emulate images of the island. But outside of that, it's definitely my take on it or, my original.
So whenever you read the stories, were there, did the actual images you saw in your mind come out exactly the way that they showed up on paper or in the digital platform?
I wish they did. They never do. They'll probably come out like 75% of how I want it to look. And I'm saying most of the time it doesn't come out exactly how I want it to look. But nonetheless, it comes out how it should.
All right, fantastic, man. Okay, well, let's move on to some of your own work. What do you have? Well, actually, let me ask this. What was your biggest takeaway? You may have answered this, but just share with us again, just in case the sound quality when you answer earlier doesn't come through. What was your biggest takeaway from the story, from this process, and why?
My thing.
Looks like we're having some technical issues, ladies and gentlemen. We have the infamous freeze frame.
About like, I don't think that. Come again?
I was making a excerpt about technical difficulties because you were like this.
Oh yeah, you're frozen too right now. I feel
Okay.
you though. Let me see. I think how I say it. But my biggest takeaway is like it's not the end of the world. Anytime something goes wrong, you just gotta keep pushing. And eventually you'll get to where you want to be. If you really want to get there, you'll get there.
Beautiful. Okay, so what are you working on now?
I'm not working on anything, but I wanted to like show you what like the book of Theater Squad. Let me see if I can pull up like a little
Yeah, let me go ahead and make
poster.
you, hold on, I'm gonna make you the host so that way you can share your screen.
Yes, sir.
Okay, bud, it's all in your hands now.
All right.
You can, you're using your phone, so
I'm
you
ready.
can
This it.
share.
Yes, sir.
Nice, okay, we can see it.
So here it is right here. All
Nice.
righty. I think the title is called Theater Squad. This little playbill right here. You have, let me see, where is it? Our main character, AO. Then we have our third character, Joshua. Then we have Cristiano, Cameron, and Wyatt. They got to see the squad. Mhm. But let me see if I can show you some more of my art. Let's see. Here's another one. This is just how like an average of how it would look. Mhm. And let me show the school that they go to. I designed a school for the book as well. Let me see. There we go. It's Rainier Valley Vikings. Let's get it. So,
Beautiful.
but I want to thank you so much. Let's see. The Theater Squad is about 68 art students trying to find their way through the life of high school as aspiring performers in the best way I can describe it. They spend half of their high school career, trying to get through, and the other half, you know, you kind of frozen. Oh man, I'm sorry for yawning. My apologies. Oh man, yeah, I can't hear nothing right now. It's very delayed.
I'm not speaking right now. I was trying to reclaim the host position while I was listening to you, see if that maybe help with something. But please continue. You said the last thing I believe I heard you say, maybe you were continuing to be heard on the audio, but you were mentioning about the theater squad and what you were planning to do with that.
Well, what I plan to do, it would be nice if it became a cartoon, like on Nickelodeon or Netflix, preferably. But I want to keep it as a book. That way, I have more creative control over it. Because although I would love to see it as a cartoon, I prefer having like my vision being carried out fully.
Nice.
And that is, I want the story. I want to have full control of my story. I want to be able, like, I want to decide what I'm doing. I want Netflix to decide for me. I don't want other people to decide for me or change my characters for me or make spinoffs that I don't want for me. So I definitely want to be full in control of my work. And yeah, 'cause I believe my work has value.
Absolutely. Absolutely. I can't wait to share our work with the world and just let the world see what you've done with pulling this story together. Okay, so what's next for you? Where can people find you?
Like, y'all can find me on Instagram. My name is DE.SEAN. in. So that's why I have Instagram right now. I'm having a website coming out soon for both myself and Theater Squad. So y'all stay tuned for that. I'm not sure when it'll be dropped, but I definitely will have one soon. As soon as I get myself together. So I'm sorry, y'all. But yeah.
Okay. And final words.
Final words. Live life with passion and urgency. That's all I'll say. You got to be serious about your time. You don't have time. You don't have as much time as you think you do. But you know what? You're gonna figure it out. I don't know what to say. Yeah.
Yeah, you do. You just said it. You did. You did awesome. You are an awesome human being, man. You're an awesome
You are
human
as
being.
well.
And it's a pleasure having you on. I will definitely have you on again, especially once we do the actual release. I'm going to bring you back on so we can just go through, show the illustrations, talk about it, and get people rallied around it so that they can get their own copy.
Oh yeah,
So I'm not going to hold you any longer. I know you got an event that you are getting ready to go to, and I got to get some more work done myself, man. I will have this thing posted for next Saturday, and we'll be sharing it with you and sharing flyers. I do have you on IG, right?
Where will it be on?
It'll definitely
I
be
have
on
to see. I
YouTube.
think what's your? It'll go where?
It'll be on YouTube for
YouTube.
sure. And I normally just share the link like on my link tree or IG, Facebook, and things like that.
Mm-hmm. I got you.
Yeah, and I have the RSS.com, a podcast host. I'm not really sure what to call it, but anyway, I registered with them. So hopefully I'll be able to get the audio uploaded to Spotify, and I'm still working on Apple and whatnot. So you'll be able to share it with your peeps in all platforms. So,
Amen. Amen.
All right, man.
I can't wait for it. It's good to be on here on a regular.
Yes, sir.
Amen. Amen.
Yes, sir. Finally good to get this done and under our belt, and plenty more to go. Okay. All right. We'll see you, man.
Yes, sir.
Love you, man, and I'll talk to you soon.
Always.
All right.
Love you as well. Stay blessed.
All right. You too.
Bye-bye.
Oh, you gotta end it because now you're the host.
Oh, okay. Well, thank y'all for joining. Thanks for having me. You know what I'm saying? It's good. It's been real. I'll see y'all next time. Stay safe.